Hello, I'm Richard Bryant, Executive Director of Musco Center for the Arts at Chapman University here in Orange, California. Tonight, I'm speaking to you from our sound porch where our superb technicians make sonic magic. It's my pleasure to welcome you to At the Musco, a free, interactive online series that showcases the best in performance, production, and arts education here at Chapman University in a celebration of what we call the art of community. Tonight, we explore the rich traditions of non-Western dance with four highly accomplished dancers and educators. Leading the discussion is Tomas Tamayo, a dance instructor at Chapman's College of Performing Arts and a performer of Philippine dance and Balinese and Javanese dance drama. Joining him are Hiroko Hojo, Dulce Capadocia, and Malathi Iyengar of the Rangoli Dance Company. Together, they will demonstrate their unique dance styles and examine how their Eastern and Western viewpoints influence their exquisite movement. As always, we encourage you to ask questions and start conversations in the live chat to the right of your screen. And now, here's our host, Musco Center's Napoleon Gladney.
Good evening and welcome to our Ever a Dancer online series in partnership with the Department of Dance at the College of Performing Arts at Chapman University. This is an At the Musco online event putting dance at the center of the conversation. I'm Napoleon, your host this evening. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and follow Musco Center on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also join our email list for updates on new happenings and online events just like this one at muscocenter.org. We have already received some great questions from our viewers, which we'll be incorporating into tonight's conversation. Please ask those burning questions in the chat and we will try to get them answered at the end of the conversation live tonight. I am so honored to welcome our guests, Tomas, Hiroko, Dulce, and Malathi. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Hello.
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 First, I wanted to check in with each of you. Tell us where you're joining us from and what styles of dance do you center in your practice? Let's start with Malathi.
Artistic Director of Rangoli Dance Company. I'm here in Sherman Oaks, near Los Angeles in California. I practice a dance form called as Bharatanatyam. So the Bharatanatyam that I practice is actually, it's reimagining of a dance culture that was originally practiced by the members of the courtesan hereditary community, where there were female dancers known as Devadasis and male dance teachers known as Natwanas. So this art form actually many people performed and practiced in the South Indian subcontinent. And but it was very much politically, socially, and aesthetically challenged during the 19th and 20th centuries. But the dance form has continued to evolve and has been a very profoundly performed art form throughout the globe. And I'm very thankful for having received this art form through a very beautiful tradition that we call as the Guru Shishya Parampara, which is a teacher-student tradition where we learn for many years under a guru, and we practice this art form. It mainly has storytelling technique. We use a lot of footwork, rhythm, wonderful South Indian classical music, hand gestures, facial expressions. We portray myths and legends, and we also choreograph and perform more contemporary stories. And the art form continues to evolve, like I said. So it's Bharatanatyam. Thank you.
Thank you, Malathi. Dulce, can you share more about where you're joining us from and the styles of dance you center in your practice?
Yes, I am joining you from my home in the South Bay in Old Torrance. I'm Dulce. I'm a Philippine American dance storyteller, and I tell stories through dance. My work has a very strong narrative. I use visual storytelling and use the inspiration of Native folklore, Philippine history, legends, and strong elements of my Philippine dance background. I grew up in a dance home. My mother founded Silayan Philippine American Dance Company, which was a traditional dance company in the 70s. She invited a bunch of young kids to come to our very, very small apartment in what is now called historic Filipino town. And she pushed away the living room chairs to create a dance studio. And from here, the first Philippine arts organization in Los Angeles was founded. And so my work is very much immersed in this traditional folk dance form. I also look to my modern dance training as a means to express my work because modern dance allows me to create artistic freedom, and I can tap into the strong emotional elements of my creation. I am both a folk dancer and a modern dancer, and I feel as if I am in the middle of a bridge, as a bridge person, having the two different dance forms talk to each other. And from here, this is where I begin to create my work.
Thank you for that, Dulce. Hiroko, please share where you're joining us from and the forms you practice.
Yes, I'm in LA, West Hill area, and I'm from Japan, and my dance style is traditional Japanese dance. Maybe some of you know the kabuki style, and later I'm specialized in Jutamai, which is West Side region of Japan, style developed there. And kabuki style is theater entertainment, and Jutamai is a private entertainment form. So it's very intimate and storytelling, and all the details of how to address age, character, emotions in small movements are the specialized thing in my style that I studied. And I came here as a visiting artist for the World Music Festival at CalArts. And then from there, for some reason, the fate lead me into United States. So I was going to inherit the traditional Japanese dance school, but I thought this is a great opportunity. So I decided to migrate in here and study modern dance. And my work, just like Dulce, is between those two cultures. But at the same time, I have a feeling of limitation of, just to pick part of my cultural tradition into modern dance because it's not completely me. I wanted to really find my voice through those, two elements, not just combining. So I'm still in my quest to do my stuff.
Thank you, Hiroko. Tomas, please share more.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tomas, and I'm speaking to you from San Diego, California. And the pieces of the puzzles of my artwork is just that. They're pieces that range from Balinese, Javanese dance drama, Philippine folk dance, classical modern dance, contact improvisation, cabaret style movement, singing as well, choral work, spoken verse, elements of design in the space. I think of myself as an artist first, and that whenever I think of a dance piece, I think about the complete environment of how I want to tell the story, if you will, or how I want to lay out the elements so people can make their own story from all of this experience. I think I'm okay.
No,
I froze, or you?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Tomas, anything else to add?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all so much for sharing. Now that we know some more about the beautiful dance expressions that you each practice and the mixing therein, what is it like practicing dance styles with deep cultural roots in new environments or spaces where the culture is not prominent in general, and in the dance and performance and cultural spaces that you've all inhabited throughout your journeys. Malathi?
That's quite challenging at times, to practice and share an art form where people have no clue about what it's about. But I think there's also beauty in it, because you're trying to bring your art and culture to an audience. And sometimes what helps is you have to cut an audience by educating, by giving some workshops and some maybe brief lectures about that might help. And sometimes I have also noticed that by simplifying the choreography or the performance and going to the essence of what I want to say in that performance also helps connect them faster, rather than having things way too complicated. Sometimes we lose them. And also I feel pacing and how long the performance is also helps. If they're shorter and if the pace is good, and if I explain a little bit before each performance, what is it that we are doing, then the audience might at least stay with us a little bit. But then it's also beautiful to let spontaneity take over, I feel. It's okay. An audience member need not understand everything that we do. Sometimes there's beauty in just seeing a certain moment in the freeze or in a pose or in the facial expression, or they might make their own little stories. That's also okay to let them form their own opinions. So it does take a little bit of both spontaneity and cultivating an audience through some level of education. And I think it can be done without sacrificing the core elements of our art and culture.
Hiroko, what do you think?
Well, two different culture completely, maybe most opposite of, American culture and Japanese culture. And it was a quite culture shock. And the way dance was treated in America and the way dance was treated in Japan is completely different. For example, nobody will walk on stage with shoes because, your silk clothes are on it. You're going to be kneel down, but that's just normal thing. So little things start from there, and every little mannerism, and then also the how stage cast, the stage performer and cast around, and then also stage hands, how they work is completely different. In Japan, one person will run everything and union won't really say much. But here, there are a lot of regulation that we have to learn. So all those things really affect, every part of it. And I was really excited at the same time. I have to adjust. I am in a different country, different value system. So I was humbled, and at the same time, I appreciate where I'm from. So it was a great learning experience for me. And I can't really tell, how audience perceived it, but it was a part of process, I think, and you cannot avoid that. And I decided to throw every privilege that I have and decide to jump in. So I decided I'll enjoy it. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's great, but I have no regrets.
No regrets. Tomas, what about you?
Well, my earliest exposure to performance was through Philippine folk dance. My brother David Tamayo directed a Philippine youth cultural group. He was 8 years my senior, so I was a little punk brother kid in the corner trying to emulate all of their dancing, and I did quite well. But the thing is that I always had this itching and this urge to do the Philippine dance myself. Okay, so what happens as I began to perform as a child and then into the teenage years, I realized that I was performing in a misunderstood, sometimes in a genre that was misunderstood, and that was based on like Hiroko was saying, a different value system from what other dancers were doing, how dance was seen. But me growing up within that as a Filipino American, I knew that it was all dance. There was no difference in that performance, in the value of the Philippine folk dance to my social dancing to the Motown sound growing up. And then as I gained knowledge and directed myself towards modern dance and the ability to make art and to make statements, I found myself again having to defend myself as a modern artist against not against, but apart from other dance artists, like Philippine folk dance artists or other traditional forms that necessarily didn't understand the modernism of what I was trying to do. And so again, we're all of us, I'm sure, are in between this continuum of identity and who we are. And again, Hiroko said beautifully, she's still on her quest. I still feel I'm on that quest as well. Not necessarily, well, in that assembling of all of those languages that I spoke about before, I think there's value in everything. I think the most important thing, though, was to make necessary the commonalities of all dance, and that modern dance here growing out of the United States experience 100 years ago was trying to reclaim the spirituality from the Eastern dance forms, specifically like that Malathi is doing from the Bharatanatyam, right? And others that are talking about the value of dance can be one of spirituality and of healing. The last thing I'll say is that I had a great experience in a workshop with Anna Halprin in Circle the Earth dances way back when before I even started to train professionally. And that unknowledge in my life of how dance can heal in global communities was brought to my attention. And because of that, I realized that art and all performance and every expression is a mechanism for the human condition to heal itself.
That's huge. Dulce, can you share some of your experiences?
Yes, when you juggle your identity as a performing artist, a dance maker, and a teacher, I think there needs to be active dance advocacy and dance education when you're doing the work that we all are doing. Dance education, because you're bringing to the table something that is completely different in tradition and something that is completely distinctly culturally informed. And on top of what I do is that I bring to the table the multicultural dimension of my work, because I'm not just doing folk dance, I'm also doing modern dance, contemporary dance expression. So as a teacher, I find myself especially having to point out the differences between, well, this is the modern dance form and this is the traditional dance form. And when I say dance advocacy, it's because what I do as a dance storyteller, it's a new dance genre, and it's outside of the defined forms of dance, such as ballet or hip hop or jazz or modern or even folk, because I'm kind of a mixture of everything. And when I do this different genre creation as an artist and teacher, I see how my students can be diffident and it can be challenging. And as time goes on in the classroom, I find that they find my work interesting, and then there's a sense of understanding. And if they begin to make connections it begins to become meaningful for them, even though it is work that is from a different culture.
Continuing to build those bridges and spotlight those new experiences for folks, which is really important. Each of you so generously brought along some excerpts of your work with you tonight. And we're going to go into a segment where we watch each of your work and you're going to tell us about it and we can respond to it. So let's start with Malathi, who is sharing some excerpts of repertory from her company, Rangoli Dance Company. That was Rangoli Dance Company. Malathi, can you tell us more about the pieces we just saw?
There were 4 different excerpts that that you saw, and the first one and the last one, it was a little bit more of storytelling, and there were a little more traditional elements that you saw. And the first one was paying homage to Lord Shiva, and the last one was about the goddess Parvati, goddess, actually the one who brings us rain. It's about the rain goddess actually, and who gives us all the things that we live by. And but the in between 2 pieces, they were a little bit different. I had used all classical elements of Bharatanatyam, of the form, but then I was exploring slightly different things. So in the third excerpt where you saw male dancers, one of the gentlemen who was performing, there I was exploring the some elements of the creation itself, the animal forms, the maybe the fish, the amphibian, and then the bird, and then the Homo sapien, and then it then moved on to the traditional Bharatanatyam work. And in the second piece, they were the dancers were showing some elements of women empowerment and their strength. So it was a little bit more about social message. So although I used all the classical timeless elements of the dance itself, so you know, the core essence was that I still tried to you know, explore some slightly different subjects.
Does anyone that's in the conversation right now have any reactions or commentary to Malathi's work that she just shared?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, gorgeous.
Thank you.
I agree. Next up, we have some repertory excerpts from Tomas. Tomas, can you give us a bit of an introduction to your work?
Yeah, real quickly, I put together some, I was able to edit through iMovie just a few of the MP4 files that I actually had in front of me. So that's what you're seeing, a little bit from older work into later work, which I think shows the trajectory of my art.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tomas. And here is Tomas's work.
Washington, D.C., 1898.
I thought first we would take only Manila. They were unfit for self-government. And to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. And then I went to bed. And I went to sleep, and I slept soundly.
You did not give America to me, and never will. America is in the hearts of the people that live in it. It is worth the coming. It is worth the sacrifice. It is worth the idealism, the bitterness of prejudice that I found you in America.
so good, it's so good. Oh, heaven knows, heaven knows, heaven knows, heaven knows, heaven knows. Oh, I feel love, I feel love, I feel love, I feel love, Who am I anyway? Am I my resume? I need this show. A 5, 6, 7, 8, a 1 chain. Walk, walk, point, 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 flick, step, kick. Okay, let's do it again. Singular sensation. Step, brush.
Thank you so much, Tomas. Tell us about what you've just shared with us.
Oh my gosh, what did we just see? we saw the insides of my mind. We saw my life experience. I think I teach dance, that dance has a spiritual component, a social component, and an artistic component. And I decided recently, in the past few years, when I had the chance and the ability to perform with my students, why don't I do that triptych that highlights those three areas that are so important to me in dance? And so that's what you're seeing. The earlier piece, obviously very socio-political, talks about the immigration of my father, who came to the United States in 1946, the same time that Carlos Bulosan wrote his novella on the experience of the Philippine migrant worker against racial violence. It's part of my life. The character of the scream or the shriek that I'm dancing, I'm a person who has a voice, but that character does not have a voice. And I was trying to make that relationship with many out there.
You're like, that's it. That's what you just saw. Summed up very nicely. Now we have some excerpts from Dulce.
Amo diya ang istorya kang lupa. Tulad ang mga ate nagalantaw sa baybay kag nagahulap.
Dulce, gorgeous. Can you please tell us more about this work?
Yes, this work is probably one of my favorite pieces. It's called, next to you, Tomas, in Sinkiel Stories. This work is called Ma'i Lost, and Ma'i is the pre-Hispanic name of the Philippine Islands. Ma'i Lost is a dance epic that combines dance theater and film, and it is also informed by the book called the Maragdas, which is the oral tales and written stories of Panay, my birthplace. The Maragdas tale retells the story of 12 datus. Datus are lords that fled political persecution sometime in the 12th century from Brunei. And because they were seafarers, they stole in the middle of the night in these big, huge vessels, and they took their children, their wives, their servants, and they decided to search for a new home. And they landed in the island of Panay, a part of Ma'i, and created a barter, sort of like the barter of New York. And the Datus discovered the black Atis who inhabited this island, and they decided to do this barter where they would give them, they gave the Atis jewels, and part of Philippine history was that they gave them a big, huge salakot. A salakot is a golden hat. And the barter was that with this salakot, you will go to the mountains because you're nomadic, and then we will stay here in the shores because we are seafarers. And that's, you know, that's why we have people my color now that live in this part of Ma'i, or in the Philippines. It centers around the legendary life of Kapinangan, who is actually the Philippine counterpart of the Arthurian Guinevere. It retells and recounts her secret love affair with Gurung Gurung, her husband's trusted ally, her banishment from Ma'i, and her transformation with the Ati tribe, the Black Filipinos of my birthplace, who actually saved her life. The work, Ma'i Lost, is a result of my Brody Arts Fund grant that I wrote as an emerging artist, and it enabled me to go back to my birthplace, San Jose Antique, to do research in Panay to observe the village life of the Ati. And when I came home from there, I wrote a grant from the LA and got granted from the LA Arts Commission. And serendipitously, all these things kind of fell in place. Hema Sandoval from Danza Floricanto asked me to be a part of the Mothers and Daughters Dance Concert at the Luckman. And the Mothers and Daughters Dance Concert actually celebrates the founding of dance and the transition of this legacy to their daughters. And so Ma'i Lost created a debut concert at the Luckman on the eve of Mother's Day. And I think this piece is most important to me because it was probably one of the last pieces that my mother saw before she passed away. And also, I remember I did it in 1999, so it's been about 20 years. But I recall the important people in my life, and one of them was C. Bernard Jackson, who was the late C. Bernard Jackson, was the co-founder of the Inner City Cultural Center, which was a multicultural arts institution that produced and presented the works of color. And I was his assistant for many years. And I remember he came up to me and said, "Dulce, you have Black Filipinos in your birthplace. Why don't you talk about them?" And that's what started this whole journey of going back home to do field research and then coming back to America to present Ma'i Lost. And it remains perhaps one of the most meaningful pieces in my repertoire.
So much depth there. And it's really amazing that you were given the opportunity to go visit and do the research. And I think it's really cool to be able to revisit this epic tale about a woman's story during Women's History Month. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
My pleasure.
And finally, we have some excerpts from Hiroko. Hiroko, could you please introduce your clips for us, please?
Yes, I'm not sure which one is going to come out first, but in a traditional dance video, there are 3 excerpts of 3 different age and character. First one is teenager. Then second one is maybe mid-20s. And third one is 40 and up. You know, it could be any old age woman and reminiscing, you know, old love and lost love and all that. So as I mentioned earlier, my specialized style is in detail. So hopefully you can see a little subtle difference in expression on teenagers and then, you know, a little bit older women. And in my modern dance creation, it was called Opposite Shore, based on Buddhism idea of life after death. And in our culture, we believe there are river separate this world and then, you know, other side of the world. And we do have tradition of put the floating lantern to let go of the nearby river to pray for past, you know, the soul. And also it's a pilgrims, you know, go around the country with the bell to, you know, pray for the people who passed. So I would like to show that whole storyline of women, you know, reminiscing lost love and couldn't let go. So it's about obsession or attachment. And she tried to cross, and which you can't because you're, you know, still alive. And there's struggle. And eventually she realized that, you know, the best prayer is to live fully. So then she will go back where she comes. And unfortunately, the lighting is so dark once I get into the water. This was outside venue, and I came down, you know, and then go into the water, and there's a stage slightly under water, and then dance a little bit. Then I'm going back. So hopefully you can see it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hiroko. Now let's watch those clips. Hiroko, thank you so much for sharing those two pieces. Can you tell us more about these contrasting works?
Well, since when I was invited to this event, it was about the culture. So not all my works are cultural, and I am a modern dancer, modern dance teacher, so straight modern. But this one was really about two cultural, how can I say, the death in every culture is different. And I really felt that I would like to use my traditional concept in in this piece with modern dance movement. But it's, to me, it seems like really combined. The standing position, walking position is all traditional way, but middle section in the water, it's all about modern. But my feeling is quite, captured and stayed with traditional idea. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it just, really wanted to show how the struggle between, like a attachment and then letting go and then just go on with life kind of thing with traditional idea.
Thank you for sharing both of those. Really beautiful. The imagery, and I wish I could have been there to see this epic journey with the water. As it's starting to rain here in Southern California, it just adds to the experience. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We actually are going to go into our final question, which is a very large one. And this is wrapping in a lot of the questions that we've received from our viewers about tradition and culture and classicalness in the styles of dance that you all practice, as well as like the cross of Eastern and Western dance and where modernism and contemporary and tradition play in all of those realms. So one big final question. Since each of you shared works that blend all of these different traditions, the classical from specific regions around the world and Western dance performance styles with codified techniques, how would each of you define and or respond to the words classical and traditional in dance today? Tomas?
I think traditional and classical just mean established. There's no value on that word classical. Because in our culture, it takes on a value. It takes on something of more importance. It takes up something. It can be judged. So I would just say established, because established just means that it's a tradition. It is a form that has gone on before, but in its own time, I'm sure it was modern. It was contemporary in its own time, as all of these forms are, right?
Malathi.
I look at this as classical and traditional as being timeless, and it's not a museum piece. And to me, it's always evolving, and we adapt to the times. But we like to celebrate, and I like to hang on to some core elements of it. That's why I like to call it timeless.
Dulce.
I see traditional and classical as two different forms altogether. And they're different. I see traditional dance as being communal in nature, dances that reflect the culture of the people and tell us about their way of living. There's a social component to traditional dances because it asks other people to participate. And sometimes it can be intergenerational, where you have a young 4-year-old kid, dancing salsa, and then you've got, his grandfather on the dance floor. And in traditional dances, there's also a sense of mimetic and a sense of purpose. Like, for instance, in Tinikling, the famous bamboo dance of the Philippines, the national bamboo dance of the Philippines, you've got a tickling bird that preys on the rice stalks of the farmers. And so the farmers try to catch the birds using bamboo traps. And so therefore this dance is born. In classical dance, there's a strong sense of formality. There is, terminology, there's technique, there's rigor, there's training, there's precision. If, for instance, you've got ballet and you have the strict positions of the arms and the feet, and there's a method to that. There's a bar, and then you go across the floor, and you do chaînés or sautés or whatever. I've always seen them as two different things.
Hiroko, traditional and classical. Thoughts, ideas, comments?
Okay, for me, classical means something in the past from our perspective. So classical music, ballet as classical dance, and tradition means something that continues, and it's just still alive to me. So it's traditional means it just continuously passed down generation to generation. I'm part of the tradition. It's going to be next generation. So it's not, something to call tradition. It's continuous. Classical is some kind of, comparison now and certain time, before kind of thing to me.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, everyone, that is our time for the day. And before we say goodbye to everyone, I was wondering if any of you have any new projects, resources, or information about your work that you would like to share with our viewers. Malathi, anything to share?
We have a company performance that was scheduled last year, of course, at the Brand Library in Glendale. And of course, it's a beautiful place. And due to COVID, it got postponed a couple of times. And hopefully, we are thinking that it'll happen this summer. And we will start working for it in the next few weeks, hoping that things will come together, and then I can meet with my dancers and start working again. But we've been working online, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to get our rehearsal started.
Oh, looking forward to you all getting back together for in-person. Yes, hopeful for the future. Hiroko, any projects or things you would like to share?
Right now, I'm talking about not starting yet, but talking about writing the book for my class. I've been teaching online dance appreciation and history class, and it's so hard to find the proper textbook. It's usually so only focused on Western dance and completely ignored the rest of the world. And I would like to combine those and write some book, bring my perspective as a dancer and dance practitioner. So that's on my plate.
Ooh, I definitely will want to pick that book up for further research and learning. Definitely. Dulce, any new projects or information to share?
I'm thinking about participating in a couple of dance documentaries. One is for historic Filipino town. I've been approached by Film Art to speak about the work of my mother. And also, I may be working on a collaborative venture on another dance documentary with a fellow dancer who I haven't met yet. She actually is a modern dancer like me, and she's Filipina. She's worked with Cleo Parker Robinson, and she's also an alumni at Chapman University. She is also doing a dance documentary of Filipino Americans and a Filipino American artist, and she's trying to gather their stories and their processes, their creative processes.
That's an exciting new project. Both of those are very cool. Tomas, anything to share, new projects?
Sure. Since COVID, I've been playing around in this office studio that I have. I'm doing a piece that's very dear to my heart. The brother I mentioned before, David, who gave me my introduction to Philippine dance and culture through dance and music. We had a very strong relationship before he died of AIDS at the age of 40 many years ago. And one of the popular influences in our lives was the singer Barbra Streisand. So I am working, since both of David and I were vocalists as well as dancers, I'm doing a piece that's commentary on our relationship, David and I's, through the songs of Barbara Streisand.
That's a really cool project, Tomas.
Yeah, it's been in my head for a while.
Thank you all for sharing your new projects. And it's really exciting to see and hear about new things coming out, as we start to transition out of this pandemic. So it's very exciting to hear about all of your work. And thanks again to Tomas Tamayo, Hiroko Hojo, Dulce Capadocia, and Malathi Iyengar for joining us tonight. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The Musco Center Creative Fund makes At the Musco online programs like this one possible, while also helping to fund the presentation of world-class artists, ensembles, and speakers on our stage in the hopeful future. Please consider donating at muscocenter.org. Please take a moment to tell us about your experience in the chat, because we love, love, love your feedback. On behalf of Musco Center for the Arts, the Department of Dance at the College of Performing Arts, and at Chapman University, thank you for joining us at the Musco. We hope to see you soon. Have a great night, and remember, you are ever a dancer. Good night.